It's no exaggeration to say that Disney runs the world of entertainment. They own some of the biggest cinematic franchises of all time. Disney Plus was so popular that it crashed on launch day because it couldn't handle the 10 million subscribers, and Disney movies dominate the box office year after year. Forget the Illuminati. The secret cult that runs the world wears mouse ears and works out of the Magic Kingdom. But what if I told you that it was never meant to be this way? That the story of Disney's success is actually the story of a group of businessmen who were willing to overhaul the entire US copyright system just for the sake of one character. Disney's empire is built on bribery, manipulation, and shady tactics that they've gotten away with for decades. And today, I'm going to tell you the true story of Disney, why it should really worry you, and what you can do about it. Welcome to Singularity. Our discussion today starts by understanding US copyright law. I know, snooze fest, but it's important to the story. See, copyright law is based on two simple principles. One, that people will be more motivated to create things if they're rewarded for it, and two, these works are good for society. These are both ideas that I think most people will agree with. You are more likely to continue creating if there's some incentive for it. Obviously, not everyone works this way. Some people create for the sheer joy of it, but it helps when it also pays the bills. That second point, though, is interesting. Originally, the idea of creative works being good for society was more about map making and less about songs and books, to the point that original copyright law didn't even cover music or literature. Art does benefit society. Theater is often used as a treatment for PTSD because of the sense of community that it fosters. Studies have shown that reading, even reading something like comic books, is shown to increase feelings of self-worth and lower depression rates. Looking at artworks that we connect with has been shown to increase dopamine production in our brains. Art literally makes our lives better, so we should encourage people to make more art. And this utilitarian belief is what US copyright law was founded on. In 1927, the law was that a creative work, something concrete and showing clear signs of the author's creative decisions, gets a 28-year copyright. During that time, no one else can produce or profit off of that work. You can get an optional extension for another 28 years for a 56-year total, but after that time is up, your work falls into the public domain. The public domain is the term for all works that don't belong to anyone. You can think of it as a storehouse for works that are free for everyone to use. Either the copyright's expired or it's been forfeited, but anyone can use these works. Sherlock Holmes is in the public domain. So is Dracula. So is the music of Beethoven and Mozart. Anyone can use these characters or these songs or whatever else to make new works. It's a beautifully engineered cycle that allows society to keep creating new things while benefiting those who do create and making sure that their creations are accessible to the next generation. This is how copyright law is meant to work. That was in 1927, and that year is important. It's the year that a young cartoonist named Walt Disney came up with his first hit character, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Yeah, this was Disney's first huge success. He was made for Universal Studios, and when Walt saw that Oswald was a big hit, he was really eager to get to work on more cartoons. He approached Universal about it, but he found out that they were already making new Oswald cartoons without him, which they were legally allowed to do because Disney's contract specifically stated that the copyright for Oswald belonged to Universal, not Disney. Disheartened, he hopped on a train and headed home. But on the way home, inspiration struck, and Walt Disney created a new character. The single most iconic character of all time, and, importantly, one that belonged to Walt Disney and Walt Disney alone. Mickey Mouse. He was a hit. Mickey's success allowed Disney to start his own company, and with the help of the people he hired, they churned out classic after classic. Snow White, Pinocchio, Cinderella, all instant favorites, and all plucked straight from the public domain. In fact, out of Disney's 10 biggest animated hits, 8 of them came from the public domain. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? It was a German folktale recorded by the Brothers Grimm. The Little Mermaid? a Danish fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen. With the exception of Mickey and his buddies, and also notably The Lion King, Disney's empire is built on fairy tales and folk stories. And that's the way it's supposed to be. This is the right use of the public domain. You take old stories and characters and reinvent them for a new audience. Now let's pause for a moment to talk about what happens when you adapt a public domain work, because that's what Disney does. Bram Stoker's Count Dracula is in the public domain. You can use this character right now without getting in any trouble. You cannot, however, use Marvel Comics' version of Dracula, or the DC version, or Castlevania, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or Hotel Transylvania, or any other modern adaptation of this character. Each of these adaptations has its own copyright and is legally considered its own entity, including later versions by the same creator. Dracula was written in 1897, meaning that under the 56-year rule, he's released in 1953. But if Bram Stoker had written a sequel 2 years later where Dracula becomes a cyborg, Vanilla Drac is still available in 1953, but Mecha Drac is protected until 1955. So great, Disney built a successful career by using the public domain. But what comes around goes around, because Mickey Mouse is a creative work, which means that he's headed for the public domain too. 1984 was the year that Mickey's copyright should have expired. Now, by this point, Disney was way bigger than one man and a mouse. They were a super corporation. And a corporation that was doing some strange things, particularly giving money to political candidates under the table. No one really knew what to make of this, and in all honesty, most people weren't even aware it was happening. But behind the scenes, Disney was gearing up to change US copyright law forever. In 1976, Congress passed the Copyright Act of 1976, which retroactively extended all active copyrights to the life of the author plus 50 years. This means that Mickey Mouse, on the eve of his release date, got his sentence extended to 2003, and all of the political candidates who never would have been in office if it weren't for Disney, they all unequivocally championed copyright extensions. It was huge and unexpected. But it happened again in 1998 with the Copyright Term Extension Act. But this time, there was nothing under the table about it. This act is literally nicknamed the Mickey Mouse Protection Act. That is on the Wikipedia page. Disney created an actual super PAC, literally called the Disney PAC, to support people who would help them keep Mickey as long as possible, regardless of what else they supported. Disney literally changed copyright law forever just to keep Mickey Mouse. Right now, Mickey is set to enter the public domain in 2024, and a lot of people expect Disney to pull another fast one and get it extended. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. The site Ars Technica recently broke news that 3 entertainment supergiants, the Motion Picture Association of America, the Recording Industry Association of America, and the Authors Guild, all groups that financially benefit from extending copyrights, don't plan to push for it. And it doesn't seem like Disney does either. Why not? The internet. People know about Disney's effort, and spread of information on the internet has allowed more people to know about it with each passing year. And a lot of people aren't fans of them keeping Mickey in copyright jail for so long. Simply put, there are too many people working against another copyright extension for it to be feasible, no matter how much cash Disney throws at the government. So, what happens when Mickey finally does become public domain? Well, first off, he's free reign for other creative works to use. Remember how many versions of Dracula there are? We could easily see that happening to everyone's favorite mouse. Mickey in space, cyborg Mickey, pirate Mickey, nothing's off the table. But more worrisome for Disney is that other people can profit off of Mickey. And all of that money is money that Disney would be making. When a character has a net worth of nearly $5 billion, that's a big deal. Which is why Disney still isn't ready to let go. No, they're not planning another copyright crusade, but they still have some tricks up their sleeves. First, keep in mind that only the original Mickey will fall into the public domain, meaning that any Mickey with gloves, color, or expressive eyes is still copyrighted. And if you think that's too petty for anyone to sue over, think again. The estate of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle sued Netflix over Enola Holmes because they claimed that it borrowed too heavily from the casebook of Sherlock Holmes, a collection of stories that's still copyrighted. The character is public domain, but that work isn't. Netflix ended up winning, but come on, it's Disney. They've got an army of lawyers. I'm sure they'll be able to succeed where Sir Doyle's estate failed. So if you want to sell Mickey merch after 2024, you're technically welcome to, but you'd better be really careful. But there's more to it. See, Mickey isn't just a copyrightable character. He's also a trademark. Trademarks are all about branding. If there's a certain phrase or symbol or even color scheme that you want associated with your brand, you can get it trademarked. Mickey is a trademark. So you could do everything right, avoid all of the copyright pitfalls, and still get sued on the grounds of trademark violation. And unlike copyrights, trademarks don't run out. As long as you remember to renew it, and Disney is not going to forget to renew the trademark of the most iconic character in history, it can last indefinitely. And don't think that Disney is going to be lenient about trademark violations either. In 1989, Disney sued 3 daycare centers for having pictures of their characters up. Keep in mind that these daycares weren't making any money off of it, they were just putting up pictures of characters that the kids liked, trying to make it a more wholesome environment. Disney also sued an elementary school in Berkeley for showing the Lion King remake at a PTA event. Again, a situation where the school isn't making any money. And Disney's not getting any money out of these lawsuits either. They're just hurting daycares and elementary schools. And if you can believe it, it gets worse. Disney didn't just keep Mickey in copyright jail. Captain America should be in the public domain. So should Superman, Popeye, Bugs Bunny, Charlie Brown. New works haven't entered the public domain in literal decades. It's all owned by corporations these days, and they only care about making money. Think about the great stories that could be told if the public had access to these characters. In his paper, How Copyright Keeps Works Disappeared, Paul Heald makes a strong case that copyright laws, as they are today, are actually making it harder for the public to get access to creative works. It's a bit complicated, but it boils down to the idea that if there's only a small chance of something making money, businesses aren't going to waste resources on that risk. Whereas if it's free to the public, there may be more people willing to take a chance and circulate it. This means that because of Disney, we literally have less access to songs, books, and other creative works. Doesn't that bother you? Does it not make you mad that one company's greed is keeping art away from the public? Art that makes our lives better and connects us to a greater community. Art that, without exaggeration, could be saving lives. So, what can you do? Well, start by supporting independent creators. Not just content creators here on YouTube, but do support us too. But artists, musicians, independent filmmakers. Do what you can to make it easier for these kinds of creators to thrive in the world that Disney has made for them. And spread this information. Tell people about what Disney's done. Tell them about how impactful the arts can be, and tell them about some of your favorite independent artists. And finally, keep fighting. We, the internet, we are the ones who stopped Disney from pulling another copyright extension. And we're the ones who continue to stop them. So we need to be vigilant. We need to hold these businesses accountable for the things they've done to hurt society and make sure that it never happens again. It all starts with you, committing to making the world a better place. This is Singularity, and remember to stay curious.